Hello, boys, and we are back with the player podium. This week it will be on time. I'm your host, Alfie, and these are a recap of the rules if you have forgotten, and here are the rules if you are new. Up to 3 players per team are awarded points based on individual performance, with the best player receiving 3 points, second best receiving 2 points, third best receiving 1 point. Unless your team has accumulated less than 3 outstanding players, then your best player may receive less than 3 points. There is a slight change to this rule in this particular game week for one of the games, but you'll see that at some point. I'm not going to spoil that now. Players accumulate the points each game week and are placed onto a leaderboard, and every week one player is awarded Player of the Week. Starting with Burnley 0 Chelsea 2, I only caught the second half of this game. I was hanging out my arse that morning, but yeah, it happens to the best of us. But yeah, it seemed fairly routine in the second half for Chelsea. Burnley did have a few chances early on from what I saw off the highlights and that, but I mean, against Chelsea, you wouldn't have gone into the game expecting them to win. A point at home against Chelsea would have been massive for Burnley because those kind of results are what can give teams hope and keep them with a fighting chance of survival. But I mean, if Burnley do go down this season, I don't think that they'll be one of the worst teams that have been relegated. They look pretty solid in some games. Like, I thought they came out the block swinging in this game. They started fairly well. They had a few opportunities, but I guess it's just that little bit of quality that the world class teams like Chelsea have that I guess Burnley don't is the difference maker in the end. Giving Ugachukwu a point, I thought he was pretty decent at Southampton. I think he was out on loan when he could get some game time. I thought he was alright. Never really got much of a look in at Chelsea, and I think he's a bit more of a PSR buy than anything. But he started to prove that he's got a bit of worth in him for Burnley. He started to chug in a few consistent performances, and I think in a game where you put the pressure on early, but there was no one real outstanding attacking threat. It was kind of just coming from a bit all over the place. I think Ugachukwu was a bit more of a sorry, was a bit more of a threat throughout of the whole of the game and was consistently one of the higher performing players for Burnley. I think overall in that game. Mark Guiu gets 1 point for Chelsea. His impact off the bench can't be ignored. He did really well for that assist, and he's kind of shown why he sparkled so much at Barcelona. I did like Guiu quite a lot while he was at Barca, and I liked his performances for Chelsea in the Conference League. I think he played really well. He got an injury though at some point, I'm pretty sure, which ruled him out for a long time. And I guess you could kind of call him a third choice striker of sorts at Chelsea. But while he's getting the game time at the moment, I think he's kind of proven that he does deserve a look in. And I guess when the FA Cup games come around, he'll be starting a lot more games. Pedro Neto 2 points. He's really starting to string together some good form, and he's starting to be a bit of a linchpin for Chelsea now. Last season as he was slowly getting into the rhythm at Chelsea. It's obviously inconsistent game time, all this, all that. But this season he's one of the first names on the team sheet every week now, and I think deservedly so. I mean, they spent like decent money on him, and he's not been as injury prone as we thought, and he's starting to come good on that investment. And I'm really liking Pedro this season. And another goal at the back post, really got down low for the header. I'm pretty surprised he threw himself at it like that, but I mean, it's what he needed to do, and he got it off. And yeah, well done, Neto. Giving Enzo 3 points, a bit of a general in midfield for Chelsea in that game, but also his movement was great. He carried to the box late, just when he needed to, and was there for Guiu and was completely unmarked. Managed to get around all the defenders and secure the result in the end. So yeah, it's 3 points for Enzo. A very inconsistent performer for Chelsea, but I think he's scored a couple of goals in recent game weeks. So if he can keep that up, then yeah, he's just going to be a fantastic asset for Chelsea in the season. They're not too far off Arsenal now. I think they're 6 points off the top. Obviously, I'm not expecting them to have much of a title race, but if they keep putting the results in, wait for the Arsenal slip up, then they won't be too far off them. It's Bournemouth 2, West Ham 2. Really quickly, I'm going to start with Max Kilman. He so blatantly should have been sent off. I don't know how that wasn't a red card. It's pretty mind-boggling to me that you can deny a goal-scoring opportunity in such an obvious way. The referee did not hesitate when he pointed at the spot, and Evan Nielsen was about 6, 7 yards. Fuck off. It's about 8 yards away from the goal. Yeah, I'm not doing that shit. But Yeah, West Ham started. The first half performance was really, really good. It was really good, but then I think Souček came on for Wilson, and they kind of just like sat off. And yeah, I get it. You're 2-0 up away at Bournemouth. It's not an easy place to go, but at 2-2, I mean, at 2-0, you've had a good half. I'd have expected them to keep it the same. When you get towards the 70th minute, when you get towards the 65th minute, that's when you start to, okay, we bring off an attacking midfielder, bring on Souček, who can sit back and offer more of a defensive contribution. But yeah, that was a bit confusing from Nuno there. But Bournemouth, they started pretty slowly. They couldn't deal with Wilson when he got the ball. But I don't know what Petrovic is doing for that first goal. You've got to be scoring that. It was a fairly hard shot, but as in terms of like power, but it's right there. You got a hand to it, and you just palmed it to the back of the net. So it was poor for Petrovic. I quite like Petrovic so far. I've seen people say, yeah, well, this is why he's sold by Chelsea, whatever. But he's had a decent start to the season. This is one mistake. You know, keepers make mistakes. It's been 12 weeks now, but yeah, it's not a fantastic result for Bournemouth, to be honest with you. They should have scored more goals. Areola was fantastic in net for West Ham. Could save the game for them on many occasions. And, you know, if I was a Bournemouth fan, I'd be so upset that they didn't win that game. Although I think he probably could have got a goal in that game, I'm going to give Evan Nilsson a point because I really like his off the ball impact and his involvement in build up play. I think he's not necessarily an out and out nine. He is a striker, but he doesn't play off the shoulder of the last defender all the time. He's someone who's pretty versatile with it. He's similar to Ekatike, I think, in the sense that when he wants to, when he needs to, he'll sit off the shoulder of the striker, off the shoulder of the defender. But when he needs to as well, he'll drop in. He'll facilitate. He'll give room for Tavernier, Kluivert, Semenyo to make stuff happen. So I think in that game he probably had a goal coming until Kilman did Kilman things. But yeah, I think he should probably have scored. Not as clinical for Bournemouth as I think Bournemouth fans would want him to be. But no, I think there's a very good player that I do very much like, Evan Nilsson, and I think he was pretty good in that game. I'd almost forgotten about Unal. I'd forgotten that he was still at Bournemouth, to be honest with you. With Krupi being signed in the summer as well, I didn't even think about him leaving. You know, it was just kind of in my mind, like life had just moved on, and it wasn't something I was actually considering. What's his name? Iriola said something about Unal and his off the field stuff, so I'm gonna have a look at what happened there. Maybe see if that's why he hadn't been so present. But yeah, I think off the bench he was given a lot of space for the goal. The marking was poor, but the turn was fantastic. Just to turn away from two defenders, completely take them out of the game, and you know he was the only one that took his chance really for Bournemouth in the game. I know they scored from the penalty, but he was the only one that went in the position, got the goal. So maybe this can be like a launch pad for him. You know, it's like he's proved in that he can do it, so he'll get a bit more time off the bench and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a good start for Unal's season. I'm giving Tavernier 3 points. I think Semenyo started to drop a little bit in form. He started to be a bit less impactful in games, and I think Tavernier's actually stepped up quite a lot. And I think in that game as well, he was the main man for him, and it was a case against Villa that Tavernier was the only one that was really, like, I'll say that the only one. If against Villa he was. In this game, he was a bit head and shoulders above the rest there for Bournemouth. He was making a lot of choices happen. He scored his penalty, which is, you know, he's done what he needed to do there. But yeah, I think it's noticeable to me that Semenyo's starting to slow down just a little bit. I don't know if he's hearing about the rumours about him leaving or whatever, but when you've got Tavernier there just to step up, it makes it just so much easier when, you know, when he's not having a good game, that you've got a player there that can take the mantle and lead your team forward. Give Bowen 1 point, no goal or assist for him, but I think he was still important, obviously important in West Ham's attacking play. There was not a lot for them in the second half. I think the general performance dropped in the second half, but in the first half, when they still had that forward-thinking mindset. I think Bowie was pretty important in the way that West Ham operated, and yeah, I mean, even when he doesn't get on the GA charts, he's still their best player, and he still puts in the good performances for them. Areola gets 2 points. I think he's a bit better of a keeper than people actually give him credit for. He's a good shot stopper, but he is accident prone, which is what people harp on about. They focus a bit on the accident prone side of things, but there's a reason why they can't really replace him, because the people they bring in just don't live up to his kind of. They don't perform so much better than him. Like Hermansen's been exiled, I think, and in that game, Areola was pretty fantastic. So many saves, really important for West Ham keeping the result. If he wasn't in net, they'd have been turned over in that second half. But he put in a monster performance in net. So yeah, I do think he gets a bit harshly critiqued. I think he is a decent keeper. You make a few good saves. Obviously, you don't want your keeper to be accident prone, because then you're just shipping goals and that ships points in the end. But on days like this, it's when you're happy that your keeper can make those saves. And I give him Callum Wilson 3 points. It's taken him a while to actually give him the game time, but now this is your man. You've got to give him the reins to operate, man. He's such a good mid-table Premier League striker that he can probably take West Ham to where they want to be. He's not a long-term replacement, obviously, but he's a very good short-term buy. And two really nicely taken goals. The second goal was lovely. He's on the spin, just caught it. He looked on the technique like he hit it a lot harder than he actually did. He kind of just like guided it into the top corner, but it floated in a weird way. And the first goal, obviously, I say it all the time, but if you don't shoot, you don't score. And yeah, you've got to take your chances when they come. So 2 goals for Wilson. It's a good performance from him. Brighton 2, Brentford 1. This is a solid result for Brighton, because Brentford are a bit of a banana skin team. They can cause a bit of an upset here and there, and they should have caused an upset. But Thiago was poor on the penalty. He should have scored that. I mean, I know when you take one in the game, it can be a bit makes you think. And I'm not for a second going to hear the stuff about delaying the time, because you are a professional footballer at the end of the day. You could wait a few minutes to take a penalty. I don't think that makes too much of a difference in the slightest. But yeah, for Brentford, I don't think it's a bad result. Again, like, losses for Brentford aren't a bad thing. Obviously, you want to be winning your games, but I don't expect Brentford to win every game. They aren't going to be consistent. It's a massive period of transition for them. They're moving away from a long Thomas Frank era into a manager who's never managed at all, let alone at the Premier League level. And losses like this aren't the end of the world. It's a good result for Brighton. This is obviously it's a better result for Brighton than it is for Brentford, but this is like, if they wouldn't have won this game, it would have been more of a concern for them than it would be if Brentford did lose the game, if you get what I'm trying to say. I don't think the performance overall from Brighton wasn't stellar. They missed a few good chances to put the game to bed. However, at the end of the day, they got the win, so you can't be too upset about that. Giving Hinchelwood a point. I think he's been out for a long time with an injury, and popping up with a goal at the end there to make it 2-1 is really good for the lad. He's scored a couple of goals now in important moments for Brighton, and his return to the team, I think, is going to be really influential for Brighton. He's a really good young player. He's probably one of the next on the corridor out, to be fair. So yeah. I also wanted to touch on the penalty given away at the end by Belieber. It's kind of a sign that his performance levels have dropped a lot this season. He's not looking like the £100 million sought after United prospect that he was, this time last year. And Hinchelwood can play in that role, so maybe Hinchelwood gives Belieber a few, like in the fixture congestion. Belieber takes a few games on the bench, get himself back together on the training pitch, and start putting in these performances again. Bartford Bruggen was solid. he saved a penalty, which is really really well done for him. Obviously, it's not good on Thiago, but it's equally as good on for Bruggen. You know, he's a keeper. You don't expect keepers to save penalties, but in a massive moment to when they could have potentially dropped 2 points, he was there to stop that from happening. So he gets the 2 points in that game, the 2 points that Brighton could have dropped. And Minter makes the top spot. Again, he was absolutely everywhere for Brighton. He has been so fantastic this season, and this game was a testament to it. He was constantly causing Brentford problems. They couldn't rest without they couldn't deal with him a lot of the time. If his teammates were a bit more clinical, Welbeck scored. I didn't put him on the list because, you know, Minter gave him a chance on a play that he missed. Obviously, he did score the one, which is well done on him. But I think, yeah, Minter just made it all tick for Brighton in that game. He took them to the result almost. I've got Ouattara in the 1 points, and I've not got Thiago in. I'm going to say it now. I've not got Thiago in because I think that is really poor on his end, not scoring that penalty. He's been really good this season. He's a really good striker, but you've just got to have that bit of composure. To get a point away at Brighton is a really, really good result, and you're near each other in the league. Like, this is your chance to prove that you do belong in that kind of mid-table setting, but he'd missed a chance. But so that's why he's not in the list. But Ouattara was pretty dangerous for Brentford. I think he won one of the penalties. He did win one of the penalties, and yeah, overall it was another good performance. So another penalty won. So it should have been 3 penalties in the last 2 games won by him, but it was 2 in the last 2. It should have been 2 in the last 2, yeah. And yeah, he shows that you struggle to contain him when he gets forward. When he makes the bursting run, he's explosive. Fucking hell, he's explosive is what I was trying to say. And defenders struggle to contain it, so he gets a point for me. Charlie gets another 2 points. Again, very underrated in the sense that he's been very important to Brentford this season without a lot of people actually realising it. And again, won the penalty at the end, should have been converted, whatever. But I think overall he was very, very dangerous for Brentford, creating a lot of their chances. And yeah, he gets 2 points. Fulham 1, Sunderland 0. This is quite a surprising result for me. I thought Sunderland would have got a point at least out of this game. This seemed to be a game where points would be shared. But you know, Fulham have been on decent home form, and they continued on that and capitalised on that to win 1-0 against a very good Sunderland team, by the way, which it can't really be ignored. The fact that this is a very, very solid outfit, and Fulham, who have struggled this season, people have spoken about Silva a little bit. Is he going to go? But this is a very, very solid result for Fulham. They were the better team, in my opinion, creating a lot more clear-cut chances. The game changed a lot at the end for them, which I'm going to speak about in a second. But Sunderland, it's nothing to worry about, honestly. Going away to a team that are in good home form, you have to take into account the fact that they were promoted last season. This is their first season in the Premier League under this kind of era. You're not going to win every game. You're going to have some results where you're like, we could have won that. Maybe we would have wanted to win that. At the start of the season, we could have looked at that game and said, we could have got 3 points, 1 point from that game. But it's really nothing to worry about. They looked decent. They did have some good chances. I do want to see Brobby starting for them. I really do. I do like Isidore, but I think his impact is more noticeable off the bench. And I think we need to give Brobby, who's also had that impact, a chance to start and really introduce himself to the Premier League as a starting striker. Raul Jimenez gets the 1 point. It's a very good striker's finish for him. There's nothing much to it. I don't think he had a fantastic game outside of the goal. But, you know, that's the goal. That's the decisive moment that wins you the game at the end of the day. I mean, if you have a stinker but you score the goal, in a situation like this, that's all you really need from your striker. You don't need him to do all the creative stuff. You don't need him to be linking up the play. If he scores the goal and wins you the game, there's not much you can't really fault him for it. I've given Kevin the 2 points. Kevin was very dangerous again for Fulham. He had a few chances that maybe he could have done a bit better on, like the header at the back post, I remember, as one of them. But had a lot of the ball, caused Sunderland a lot of their problems and created a lot of chances for Fulham. I want to speak about Chukwueze, and I said a while ago that I think he needs to be starting, and this just rams that point home so much more for me. When he came on, Fulham were the better team, but the step up in level of performance from before he came onto the pitch to after he came on the pitch was ridiculous. He was so good when he came onto the pitch. He was just so influential and played a role in the goal, I'm fairly sure. But yeah, I don't know why he doesn't start. He's infinitely better than a lot of their other winger options, and Iwobi proved that he was good when he dropped into the deep, so there is a role for him there. Josh King could try that role out as well. So you can shoehorn these players in, but Chukwueze has to be one of the first names on the team sheet. Like him and Kevin, you signed them in the summer. These are big names, They aren't like unproven players that you're starting to, build up. Like these are guys that have played and have performed at clubs, and I know you're introducing them to the league, but at the same time you've got Chukwueze for a year. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of the contract situation, if there's a buyout, if there's whatever, but you've got to get your best players on the pitch. Roos had a good game. I think he made a few good saves. I on the goal, I don't think he should have come. Well, I'm not sure. I think he was reasonable. It was reasonable for him to leave it, but I don't think he had to come for it. But he could have come for it and probably made it more difficult for Jimenez to score. But in that situation, if you're the kind of keeper that feels more comfortable making a save, I understand why you'd leave that. I was that kind of keeper. If it was in that little corridor of uncertainty, I would always stay on the goal line, try and make the save, because I found it. I thought I'd be more successful that way. Obviously, Roofs wasn't this time, but on a different time maybe he would be. But outside of that, I made a few good saves. As he has done for Fulham this season. Not Fulham, as he has done for Sunderland this season. So he gets a point. And Enzo Lefebvre was the technician for Sunderland in that game. He made them tick. He was the one with making all the chances. There wasn't too many else that were doing that. As Bertrand Traore had a nice little opportunity where he took it round a few players and had a shot. But outside of that, there wasn't too many other players that were sparkling necessarily for Sunderland. So yeah, it's not the best game for them, but it's heads up, man. They've had some great games this season. They've drawn to Arsenal, so dropping a point here, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Wow! Liverpool again. To be fair, I'll be a bit more. I'll be a bit kinder and say they were okay in the first half. They weren't bad. They had a few chances. There was no one that was really facilitating all of it. It was just a bit like in other games where you'd clearly have Salah who was making all the difference, or you clearly have Gakpo or Diaz or someone who was just making them tick over in that game. There was no one real player that was doing it for them. The chances came from a few different outlets, and they just weren't good enough to convert. Forest were in at the same time as Liverpool weren't good enough. Forest were excellent defensively, and this is exactly the kind of football that Sean Dyche is just renowned for. You're not gonna have like Ange moments under Dyche, and if you do, they're going to be such a rarity. Like you know what to expect with Dyche. You expect rigid, solid, defensive performances, and Forest in front of their own net were fantastic. And going forward, they converted the chances that they had. They were a lot more alive than Liverpool to second balls. They wanted to win a lot more than Liverpool did, and yeah, it's not good enough. Liverpool are not good enough. People are starting to call for Slot's head, and rightly so. I mean, if you're a Liverpool fan, I'd understand why you'd want Slot to go, especially when Alonso looks to be player powered out of Real Madrid. If Alonso leaves Madrid and this form keeps it up, I would sack Slot in favour of Alonso. To be completely honest with you, I would do that, and he's got obviously credit in the bank from winning the Premier League, which is it's the Premier League. Come on, he won the league last year, but you can't you can't ride on that forever. If it gets to the middle of December and they still haven't picked up any points, I think his head would be on a platter. Gibbs White did really well for the Forest goal. He was so much more alert than any Liverpool player I saw. The match of day analysis was good because they highlighted three. I think it was Gravenberch, Van Dijk, and someone else I can't remember, who were in and around that area and were just not awake to the ball at all. And Gibbs White was on his toes. His finish was lovely. Nothing Alisson could do about it. And yeah, he gets a point in that game for me. Elliot Anderson was great as per Forest. He's let his level. He's stepped up so much this season, and he getting consistent game time since leaving Newcastle has actually been a blessing in disguise for his career. Because he's now, he's in that conversation for that England squad, and very rightly so. A really good block off the line was one moment in particular that I liked from him. Can't remember whose shot it was, but it was past Sells, and he was there. He was brave. He was big in the header, and he got the ball clear. And yeah, 2 points for Anderson. The Murillo with the 3, a clean sheet for Forest, and a goal for a defender. That's like a dream performance almost. His finish was really nice. Like, it was really well struck. I'd not like, regardless of whether you think it was offside or not, the finish itself was great. I'm not that kind of ruling. There needs to be just a fine line. Like, either allow those or don't. Like, you can't be doing this. Like, it's getting given in game A but not game B stuff, because that's where people get upset, and that's where people draw. That's where controversy start. But Murillo himself was great. The defensive performance overall from Forest was just fantastic. So him scoring as well. He was the kind of like the centrepiece, the poster boy of that defensive performance for Forest. Wolves 0 Palace 2. I don't have a lot about this game. It was a pretty drab first half. There wasn't too many chances. Palace missed a few opportunities, but second half they really sort of like came to life. And against, again, inferior opposition, Wolves are going to get relegated from the Premier League this season, I think. Obviously January is approaching, so we've seen them. I think it was last season they had a pretty miraculous turnaround in Jan, but I just don't see it. I don't see who would want to go to Wolves that can massively improve their squad. Rob Edwards, I think, has made a bit of a mistake, and they did. And if they got a point at home to Palace, that would have been a really good result. They could say, you know what, we've got a point at Palace. Maybe there's something here with Edwards, and we can kind of use it, get a little bit of form going, try and claw ourselves to safety. But a loss on the first game is never fantastic for a new manager. It's never really what you want from a new manager. So yeah, it's fairly routine in the end there for Palace. Giving Lacroix a point. I think he got an assist in the end, and yeah, just bit of a marshal. Like, defensively speaking, there's not really a lot to be said for Palace, so it's fairly brief, but he gets a point. Very good game for him. Munoz with 2 points, another goal. It was a nice strike, though, I tell you what. He is, I don't know, I think he must have been a winger at some point, but he looks too defensively like solid for a winger. It is really like, he's so suited to that wing back role. Like, if I was United, I'd so be looking at getting him in the winter. That would be a perfect transfer for them. But yeah, I don't know why I'd want to leave them, to be honest. So Munoz just keeps plugging in these good performances. Just so good on FPL as well. If you don't have him in your FPL team, I don't know what you're doing. He's been in the Premier League 2 years now, and I'll keep saying it, but I've rated him from the start, and not a lot of people did. Well, not that they didn't necessarily not rate him, but they weren't talking about him, and I was, so I'm better than all of you. And 3 points to Jeremy Pino. This is a very good game for him. He was very creatively dangerous. He was this is where he kind of proved the Eze replacement kind of thing. Like, he was like just doing it all in that game. He was the star, the like little star boy, I guess. I think he scored. Yeah, he did score, and I'm not. Pino's been great on FM for a while, so obviously I've heard about him. I haven't watched a lot of him because that's just how it is with Football Manager Wonder Kids. But yeah, he's starting to really plug in some good performances now for Palace. Newcastle 2, City 1. this was a very good. This is a very good result for Newcastle. They don't beat City a lot, and it shows that when Haaland isn't firing, like they said, City do struggle, and they have become very one-man team in that essence. But let's not take away from the fact that Newcastle play really well. They had a lot of really decent chances as well. I'll speak about Barnes a little bit more in depth. Obviously, he missed his chance, but yeah, it was a good win for Newcastle, and it is strange when they lose to worse teams, but then they can go and beat City, and they can compete against Arsenal and can only drop points in the last minute. Yeah, it's strange how Newcastle are like that, and City have been. It would be weird to rule them out. You can't rule them out of anything just yet, but the way that it's going, they don't look consistent enough to that I can confidently say after 37 game weeks they're still within a chance of winning the title. You know what I mean? Jacob Murphy actually did quite a lot for Newcastle in that game. Played a lovely ball to Barnes for the chance that he missed, and was overall just really attackingly positive. He's been since Alanga came in. He's actually been the definite starting right winger, which is weird because obviously Gordon's played on the right before, as has Barnes, but Murphy is in that kind of Almiron type where I don't think he's necessarily that good of a player, but he's putting in good performances. And I like the lad. I don't dislike him at all. I've spoken fairly negatively about him before, but yeah, he's starting. He is putting in some fairly consistent good performances. Obviously, we'd have to wait to see if that is a purple patch or not. But yeah, he gets a point for me in that game. Malik Chow gets 2 points. This is someone I haven't spoken about enough on this channel. He's been better than I've given him credit for. I think in the games when Newcastle performed, there's been people that have performed better. That's why he hasn't got too many points. But I think in that game he was really defensively solid. Haaland was kept quiet all game, and the goal that was scored was it just happened. Those goals happen all the time. You could be the best team in the world, but you can see goals like that where it kind of just falls to a player who takes a good strike. Yeah, it's 2 points for Chow, and yeah, I'm surprised that he's not been on the list more because I have liked him for Newcastle. I don't think he's been bad, but I think in the games where he's played well, I think there's probably been players that have played a little bit better. If Newcastle didn't win the game, I would not have put Barnes in the 3 points because that miss at, I think it was 0-0, when he missed that at 0-0, that was just, I cannot explain how he missed that. But moving away from that, outside of that, he played a fantastic game. I'm not going to harp on too much about the miss. I don't want to be too negative because Barnes was fantastic. He played a fantastic game, but I think if the game wasn't won, then there'd be questions about it. But Barnes was great. He in front of goal, outside the miss, he was really good. His 2 goals were really, really nice. It's like the easiest chance of the night he missed somehow. But yeah, man, he's really fantastic, and I've always liked Barnes. Thought he was a really good signing for Newcastle. I thought he would replace Gordon, but they're just interchanging now. But his performance has been much better than Gordon this season, definitely. So that Gordon Murphy Voltamada, that Barnes Murphy Voltamada front threes could be pretty lethal. Giving Donnarumma 1 point. He made a few decent saves for City, and I don't think there were that many other players that were that outstanding. So I don't think it was his best game, but I think in terms of the City performance overall, he was one of their better performers. So he's got a point for me. And Jeremy Docker gets 2 points. Still creatively really good. That lovely chance, that lovely ball through to Haaland. I don't know if he got surprised by the fact that Pope came for the ball, but he scuffed that chance completely. The pass to him though was really, really good from Doku, and most of the positive work from City came through him. I've not put Diaz on because I don't think his performance outside the goal was good enough to warrant points. So it's just Donnarumma and Doku on the point sheet for City in that game. I can pretty confidently say as a Villa fan that I haven't watched many games that have caused me so much stress in my life as that Villa Leeds game. The first half performance from Villa was so bad. and I'm gonna push my anti ratings narrative now. Tielemans and Kamara ended that game with 7.8 and an 8.0 match rating respectively. If you watch that game and you watch that first half, not a chance on hell would you give either of those players anything close to that. However, the second half performance from Villa was much better. The subs were great by Emery, and it's a very good win. Ellen Road is not an easy place to go by any stretch of the imagination. So teams in and around us will drop points at Ellen Road, I think. So that's a big result for us. Leeds played well. Like the first half, they were much better than us, and they had some good chances in the second half too. Dan James looked good when he came on. He came on and pretty instantly caused a problem for the disallowed goal. But outside of that, they just lack that. Their final pass, I think, is quite poor. There's a few times, Okafor in particular, it's not just him, but I noticed he did it especially. There's a few times when he would do well to get the ball forward, but then the final pass just wouldn't be there, and that was a problem for Leeds in that game. But overall, my blood pressure still hasn't recovered from watching that. And yeah, just happy that we got the win. Giving Cash 1 point, I think he was defensively good and wasn't amazing going forward, but yeah, it was a solid performance from the lad. I wanted to put Matson in, but I think Cash overall across the two halves was slightly better and more consistent, so he gets a point from in that game. A lot of the plaudits for that game were going to be on Rodgers. A lot of the attention was on Rodgers, and rightly so. But I don't want it to go unnoticed how good Marlon was when he came on. His impact was instantaneous. Like obviously, in the literal sense, it was because he got the assist for Rodgers. But just the way when he came on, we just looked so much more fluid. We looked so much better creatively. We looked like we had someone who wanted to drive at Leeds. He had two chances that he missed, but he got into really good situations where Watkins didn't. And I'm at the point where I obviously I want him to get more game time. I love the bloke. I've loved the bloke for even since before he played for us. And I wanted him to get more opportunities ever since he's been here. But I think this game is such a visual, like such a sharp reminder of the fact that Watkins has been so poor this season and Marlon has been great in the very limited chances that he's got. So he has to be starting more games. He has to be playing more games. And if we go to Wolves at home and Watkins is starting and Marlon's on the bench, I'm not going to be very happy because Marlon was fantastic against Leeds. And part of the reason why I think Rodgers was so good in the second half was because of Marlon being another attacking outlet. Like when Rodgers isn't having a great game and we try to force the ball to him, he just doesn't do well. But in that second half, he just came to life. Like he was so good in the second half. He was causing them a lot of problems, and he scored two great goals, which can't go unnoticed. So he's got 3 points in that game. But I can't help but think like the difference in performance is so stark that I don't know why you wouldn't want to give Marlon more chances. I can't really figure out why Tanaka was taken off. He was in a very scrappy game. He was the perfect player for Leeds to kind of keep on, I thought. So I don't know why he was taken off in the 71st minute. I understand when the Sancho won against City, I was a lot more understanding of that, but that's because I don't think the two situations are the same. I think Sancho's someone who was struggling for fitness, and Emery does that a lot of the time when someone gets brought on. But Tanaka came on and he was great for Leeds, so I don't know why Farke would bring him off. It's strange decision to me, and I thought he was great and deserving of a point. Bogle really brought the fight for Leeds a lot of the time. He was getting stuck in. His spell this time around in the Premier League has been so much better than anything that I've seen from him in previous seasons. I've really actually liked Bogle at right back for Leeds. I saw his signing and I was just like, that screams a relegation signing. But he's performed pretty well so far, I think. And he was both offensively and defensively very important for Leeds in that game. Again, about match ratings, and Mecha caused us a lot more problems than his match rating gives us credit for, and the match rating of our centre backs give us credit for. Part of it wasn't down to him. Part of it was down to Torres' kind of lack of pace, which is his weakness and his weak point. But Mecha got the ball. He outpaced Torres a lot. Got the ball around Torres quite a lot, and caused us quite a lot of issues. His goal was fortunate. Let's not. Well, I'm not going to pretend it wasn't. But at the same time, like I say, if you're not there, then you're not going to score the goals. If you don't take the shot, you don't score the goals. He's in a good position to catch the rebound, and Konza's poor clearance was well tucked away. So about the goal, it's like, fair enough. I'm not going to fault him for it. Like, he was there, and he was able to capitalise on the clearance. And yeah, I mean, why Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets any minutes when this man is in the team, I don't know. He is such a worse striker than a Mecha, and yeah, and Mecha when Calvert-Lewin came on, obviously the handball, and just his overall performance was just so poor. So it was like, why would you not want to start on Mecha, man? I don't get it. Calvert-Lewin, I said it at the time, Calvert-Lewin getting minutes for Leeds will be the reason why they go down, if they go down, and it's looking more likely than not at the moment. I was at work at the time, and I was chatting to a few people, a few of the regulars who were watching the game, and it was like, I just looked and I was like, how are Arsenal 3-0 up? Obviously, I know it's at the Emirates, and I know Spurs aren't a great team, but I was like, what is going on here? And then I saw the team sheet, watched the game, and I was like, you know what, I completely understand. It went to a 3-back with 2 defensive midfielders. There was no attacking impetus at all. And some Spurs fans have started to call for Frank's head, which I think is a bit, whoa, like, come on now, give him a bit more of an opportunity to work through the poor form. But that is just an awful showing from Spurs, and Arsenal were just phenomenal. They created so many chances, which Spurs sitting back, if they were Brentford or if they were Palace, I would have understood it a lot more. But you're Spurs, you have a lot more like talent in your team than the mid-table teams. So I don't know why you're sitting back and inviting Arsenal, who are one of the best team in the league at the moment, to have these options, have all these chances, and it didn't work out for them in the slightest. So it was such a day in the office for Arsenal. Like, it was ridiculous, man. Spurs were just so bad, so bad, and Arsenal were great. So yeah, I mean, I saw Arsenal winning, but not to the extent that I didn't think that it would be this bad, you know. Trossard was actually pretty good in that game. He got a goal and got an assist, and overall I thought his attacking play was really positive. I don't really like Trossard that much. I've said it a few times. I think he's I don't think he's a fantastic level. I think he's a little bit below the rest of the level of the squad. But, you know, if he's putting in performances like that, he will prove me wrong. And he proved me wrong in that game, and I think, yeah, his overall performance was great, so he gets a point. Saka didn't get a goal or assist, but he caused a lot of issues for Spurs, and this is where I don't get the goal and assist debate for Saka, because he's so clearly a great football player. He's such a fantastic football player that you can watch the game and see that he doesn't need goals or assists to be good. You know, it's like, come on, like, use your brains here. I do not like feeling Arsenal fans delusions, but I feel like if he was putting in those performances for not Arsenal, then people would look on it a bit more favourably. But yeah, and Bassett, a big game, and Saka stepped up and performed hugely, so he gets 2 points. And was it any surprise your player of the week for this week for Game Week 12 is Ebereki Eze? I mean, 3 really nice goals, could have scored more. Like, anyone with him in the fancy teams, they're laughing to the bank this week. But yeah, it's a really, really good game for Eze. This is what you kind of dream of. Like, if I scored a hat-trick against the Blues for Villa, I'd be in absolute dreamland. So I can only imagine what Eze is feeling actually having done it. And yeah, I mean, this is like, this is one of your difference makers in the World Cup. I wouldn't start him, but this is, if I look on the bench and I see players like Eze getting warmed up, I'm so confident that we can change the result and change the game. So yeah, I'm like this is such a good performance from Eze. He's purely in here for the quality of the goal because no Spurs player deserved to get in. But Richarlison, what a finish that was! To have the audacity to spot that and pull that off as well, really, really, really lovely moment of individual quality, and it's like I don't know if you remember. There was a few seasons ago, a team in the Champions League were getting battered, and one of their players scored one of the nicest consolation goals I've ever seen. The ball came to me, just hit it on like the side volley, and it just went. He cut it into the top right corner, and they were something like 7-1 down on aggregate, but it was such a nice consolation goal. That's what that reminded me of. But yeah, I mean his overall performance wasn't good, but he scored a lovely goal. So fair enough, he deserves a point just for that. I'm going to talk about the incident in a little bit. You're going to see that in a second. But United 0 Everton 1. What are United doing? Everton are down to 10 men after 10 minutes. So, including added time, that is 90 minutes of, essentially 90 minutes of 10 men, and you just can't break them down. Like, it was to the point where Fernandes was taking pot shots. It was so ridiculous, man. Like, I just don't understand what is wrong with United? What are they doing? In essence, Amorim cannot change. He cannot adapt. He's not adaptable, and I don't think he is the man going forward. I just don't. Like I didn't want to be fooled by the good. I think I probably was a little bit swayed by the good results, but Amorim, I don't. He just isn't. This result has made me see the light, I think, and I don't want to be reactionary. I don't want to be anything like that. But if you cannot break down 10 men, I understand it's Everton. They are a good team and they are very structurally solid. If you cannot change your system to break down 10 men at home as well, what are you playing at? Like, actually, what are you playing at? It's just poor. Everton, fantastic result for them, especially given the circumstances. A win away at Old Trafford's always good. You're never going to be upset about that. So, yeah, well on to Everton that game. I've given Bruno a point because I think he was creatively positive. He had a few very close long efforts. If they would have scored that, maybe the game would have been different. I don't know. But again, it shows you can't just rely on the individual factors. You need your overall system to be solid. But yeah, Bruno had a good game. I also think Ahmad had quite a good game. Apologies, I didn't get to. Jesus Christ, I didn't get to watch too much of the highlights. But from what I saw, I thought Ahmad was quite positive. I don't know why they can't try push Bruno in and have one anchor. I guess out of possession you can get Bruno to drop back in as well, but yeah, I'm too focused on United as an entity, and I should be giving more praise to Ahmad because he was pretty creatively dangerous. He did cause Everton. I say cause Everton a few problems. I don't think United caused Everton problems, but he caused Everton problems in the sense that he was getting the ball forward for United a lot. It's kind of what I mean. Like, I think Everton were always very solid and weren't really too much at risk of conceding, but I think Ahmad put the pressure on so much more so than anyone else did for United. Giving Ndiaye a point. For the limited four-race forward that Everton had, I think he was kind of at the heart of it. I think he's just such a good football player. I'd be so surprised if he's at Everton next season. Like, imagine if he went to Liverpool, that would be like so crazy, but he's a Liverpool level talent. He just is. Ndiaye's a fantastic footballer, and I mean, he didn't get the goal or assist today. It wasn't his best performance, but I think he was one of the better performers in the game for Everton. Dewsbury Hall's goal was lovely, and again, he's gone very under the radar so far for Everton this season because obviously all the praise is around Grealish, all around Ndiaye, but he's been a great signing, and his goal was lovely. I mean, I don't blame Lamens for the goal at all. Like, he did what he could. If you could have saved that, it would have been a great save, but it was just too much. It was just too good of a strike. Like, it was a really good shot from Dewsbury. Lamens could only put it further into the top corner. So yeah, it's 2 points. And Pickford gets 3 points. Just constantly saving Everton's arse. Two long efforts from Bruno were saved, and yeah, he was great. Like, from the when United actually did get forward and actually did put the chance in, he was there to make it. Like, he was there just to tide them over. And yeah, it was a massive performance from the lad. I said I'd speak about the incident. Here we go. I don't care what you have to say about whether it should have been a red card or not. Like, if it's against his own teammate or whatever, I don't give a shit. Why are you why are you even giving the referee the faintest thought of a red card against your own teammate? Teammates argue all the time, that's fine. Teammates get annoyed at each other. I remember Mings and El Ghazi had a bit of a square off against City when we got promoted. That happens, but you don't strike your team. You don't push your teammate away from you. Like, you have it out. You have a bit of a verbal back and forth. That's fine. You get your anger out and then you move on. Striking out like that, it wasn't hard. It wasn't a lot. But if you put your hand to someone's face, you're gonna run the risk of getting a red card. So for the first time in the series, and probably the only time I'll have to do it, I've given -1 point to Idrissa Gueye for that, because he also put his team in such a shit position for the rest of the game, and the meeting that he will have had to have with Moyes and Keane on Monday would have been so fucking awkward. So, Gueye, you're a muppet. You're getting -1 point for that game. And your point scorers, again, reminder for you, the first time ever -1 point. I've had to put it in brackets because fucking Excel keeps thinking I wanted to make a function and do a maths, which was stupid thing. But yeah, Haaland's still out there, but Minter is now the second highest point scoring player. Caicedo have been on the bench the last 2 games, and Grealish have not been too influential. And your list is starting to get long. You're starting to see players that have, like, if you get to 5 points now, that's not like the worst thing in the world. Like, here to here is kind of, if you've had a couple good performances, this is where you're starting to get to, you're like, okay, you've been a good player this season, and then these are becoming the best of the best for your team. I find it mad that Amadou Onana's the highest point scorer. Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked here. Anyway, yeah, and then your list obviously of player of the weeks as they've been added to that. But that's all from me this week. A -point. If you what you think about that? Do you like that? Do you not like that? Maybe I should do that more frequently. I don't know. Let me know. But yeah, that's all from me. Thank you very much.